Hey, it's Nitya with Karma Chameleon. How are you this morning? It is here as I'm filming. I just watched Pretty Baby, documentary about Brooke Shields. You ready for this? Yes, my loves, that is me. I'll give you another one. Oh my gracious, yes, I dug into my portfolio from I think I was 19 years old, maybe 20. I think I was 19. It was a time of Brooke Shields. It was a time of Christy Brinkley and Linda Evangelista. So Naomi Campbell, Tyra Banks. I mean, I lived and breathed fashion. I devoured every single fashion magazine out there. And you remember the September issue was like a phone book. It was so thick. Oh, those days. So yes, I was modeling, and that was a short-lived stint in my life. And growing up, I will say there was a point where I was referenced many times as, you look just like Brooke Shields. Big eyebrows, very expressive eyebrows. And yeah, I suppose there was at that time a similarity. So I thought I would share with you the very interesting chart of Brooke Shields. If you're interested in Bazi Chinese astrology or feng shui, please subscribe and follow these videos. So, and I apologize, I have got a horrible pollen kind of allergy and have been coughing my head off. So I will be coughing and there's nothing I can do about it. Anyway, Brooke Shields, we're also basically like a year apart, not even. And yeah, I will say growing up as a teenager, I very much felt like I was dreaming of having a life like she was having. Though after watching this very good documentary about her life, that I would not have wanted that at all. Brooke Shields was born May 31st, 1965. We're going to adjust her time for daylight savings time to 12:45. It is 1:45 in the afternoon, but we adjust time for daylight savings, and makes perfect sense. There is no way this girl is born in the hour of a sheep. No way. She was definitely born in the hour of a yang water horse, the day of yin wood rooster, the month of yin metal fire, the year of yin wood snake. Now, balanced she is with her yin yang. And when you look at how her elements work out, as a wood person, she's balanced at 21%. What nourishes her is weak, only 11% of water, which I have to say, I was thinking that she could be a Zhao bird simply because her mother was such an oppressive presence in her life. I mean, they were one thing for so long. But no, not at all. Weak with what is supporting her. Very strong fire. What is her, that is her action. That's what she produces, creates, does. What she controls, earth, this is also money, is 10%. That is her, that and water are her two weak elements. Metal, what controls her, is strong at 30%. So this is a fire pattern for her chart, being born in the month of May. And, when you look at her life from the very beginning, it was all about work and being active and all the things she was creating, starting with those first advertisements. And, it's really an interesting thing. When you look at someone's 12-stage growth cycle, I haven't talked about this before, and this is determined by your day master element. That is you. Okay, so as a yin wood person, that everything stems from that element of yin wood. Okay, and if you think about it, she's long and tall, just like a beautiful flower. So when you look at what are the different stages, 1 through 12, 12 is pregnant. And I often think of that because it's the end as being pregnant with the beginning of the new cycle. 1 is the most fragile. 1 is someone who is kind of like that innocence of being brand new. It's someone who is a really fast learner, really smart, has many opportunities given them in their life. They're like happy-go-lucky people, honest and kind and gentle. They're great in relationships. Everybody likes and respects them. And it's a very strong energy. These people tend to live longer than other people. There's a youth about them. Now, where this shows up in her chart is interesting because it shows up in 3 key places. 1 is in her hour. And since her hour is her career, she began her career as a baby, then I'm looking at the fact that there is this sense of youth in her career, of that innocence, that, someone who is learning and adapting and walking into her world with fresh eyes, like a new soul. This is also, interestingly enough, her life pillar matches her hour. Her destiny is to live her life. Destiny is her career. I don't know that I've ever seen this before. This is really interesting to me. And her first luck cycle is this. I really loved this piece. So her life pillar and her first luck cycle and her hour are all the same. Yang, water, horse. And what that says is that in the first 10 years of her life, Brooke was exposed to everything her life would be about. Her life being about her work. Her life being about learning. Her life being like an open vessel of a new soul here to be inquisitive, to joyfully figure it all out, right? So let's look deeper at what is yang water for this yin wood person. It is her mother, the most prominent relationship in her career, in the first 10 years of her life, though in a disassociated way because the first luck cycle began at infancy at the age of 1. which I found surprising. I would have thought that she would have had that initial umbilical connection to her mother up until 9, which is obviously the longest you can have that connection. But no, she pretty much immediately left the father after having the baby. And so that first 10 years, she did not have that energetic connection to her mother anymore. She was her own person, but her mother was having a dominant influence in her life in those 10 years. Now the horse brings in a lesser influence of the father, though he's still there, and she did have a relationship with him. And it talks about making money. It talks about also that this was a period of her life. Again, this is echoing her whole life. Making money. It's about love. It's about her dad, her mother, what nourishes her. And also, on a big scale, this is also all about her daughters. But when we look at the first 10 years of her life and her work, this is about someone who joyfully loves what she does. Now, it isn't specifically talking about her work because the element associated with her career is metal, and there's no metal there. But it's speaking of her career in terms of more about not the job itself, but the action of working. And in her career, that there is so much that she enjoys about acting, about modeling, about the work that she's done. Okay. So that just right off the bat. Okay. There is a lot of fire. That is not surprising when you look at someone who is a snake, born 1965. Snakes are sensual, serene, intuitive. Behind the scenes, though. And that's an interesting juxtaposition because Brooke is born on the day of a rooster. Forget the snake. The rooster is, woohoo, here I am. The rooster is fashion. The rooster is center stage. Cock-a-doodle-doo, here I am. There are other celebrities I have talked about with a rooster day. These, it is, they love to be seen, love to be heard, love to strut their stuff. They can be a little cocky, but very flamboyant, fun. And having that snake as the overarching influence adds to that rooster, that sensuality that was so promoted in her childhood, and also that serenity, which, really did speak to the serenity. I think was misinterpreted as innocence, and childhood innocence portrayed as sensuality. None of those movies would have been made. I saw Blue Lagoon. I thought it was awesome because I was a teenager. Pretty Baby, I don't think I ever saw, with Susan Sarandon. No, those movies would never have been made now. No. And, does that take away from creative license? Does that take away from telling stories that some people want to tell? Possibly. But it's also looking at the fact that she had no agency for her own self. She was too young to say, I'm choosing this. She was just being told. And if you spend your whole childhood in getting your makeup and hair done in front of cameras, multiple people giving you direction, look here, pose like this, give your line like that, deliver this, you wind up with someone who is all exterior. And nobody is asking what is going on inside. What does she feel about her sexuality, her sensuality, her personhood? What does she feel about anything? Where is her agency? And so, I remember those years when I was an aspiring model and what it felt like to sell yourself, to eat next to nothing, trying to be a size 0, which I would never be. And this killer bird, my 30-some-year-old cockatiel, every now and then decides to sing. I don't know why. Right at this now moment, he's chirping up. So lots of interactions happening here. Her snake and her horse make a semi-fire trio. And she also has, let's see, her snake and her rooster make a semi-metal trio. So what are those two doing? They're boosting, they're giving a surge of energy into both her career and her creativity. That's a really cool combination. Okay. So let's drop into her luck cycles, because this is interesting. So remember that when you want to see that flow of energy moving through someone's 5 elements to support them, to support career, success, finances, everything. So when you have weak elements, it's kind of like the flow gets interrupted. This is where you see a stagnation, where an element is so inflated that the organs of the body and the aspect, like let's say it's your career, becomes so inflated that it starts to become this big blockage. And that can start to show up in the organs of the body, depending on which element it is. And in the same way, if you've got a massive overinflated element and another one that's super weak, those elements, those aspects of the physical body are also in jeopardy of falling apart, getting sick, something happening, because there's nothing supporting them. So she's got very strong metal for her career, but there's weak earth for what she's manifesting, her finances. Fire is really strong. So when you're looking at that, this is someone who has so much output. 70% is output, 30% is herself. So the risk is there for being very controlled, but also losing yourself in the world around you and getting burned out, right? Adding water gives a flow that also adds support for her. And so in a lot of ways, both water and earth are very helpful to see in her chart. Let's see what's going on as we move through the luck cycles of Brooke Shields' life. So I already mentioned that from ages 1 to 10, she was living out her life pillar. So if she were to look back at those first 10 years of her life and extract from that the overarching influence of events happening, work that was happening, her mother, everything, her father, all the things that were going on in her life. She could then take those bullet points. Let's say you make a list. Then you can arch it over your whole life and draw lines. Oh my gosh, this was this is this is this. And it translates into all the relationships and all the work and all the events of your life. It's pretty amazing when you can tap into the life pillar. It can reveal so much about why you're here. Okay. So then she's now, I believe she was 10 or 11 when she filmed Pretty Baby. So we have moved into this luck cycle of the sheep. The sheep is now giving her a full fire trio of snake, horse, sheep. And that is a big surge of energy going into what she is doing, her actions, her creativity. So in this period, oddly enough, her mother does not show up as being such a big influence. It's other people supporting her. Kind of like you could say her handlers. And her father is, interestingly enough, the person who is having a bigger influence on her. And there is this mention of under the hood from ages 11 to 20 of her finding herself. And that I find really cool. And the yin water isn't just outside people like her handlers, it's also education. And this is during the period where she dropped out to go to Princeton. I remember that. But I also remember, I think Jodie Foster went to Princeton too. I also remember that it was like she disappeared for 4 years, and we now know in the world of social media, you can't be gone for a week before becoming obsolete. And so when she came out, she had a horrible time trying to jumpstart her career. And I think that she found that to be one of the most problematic times of her life. But that wasn't 11 to 20. 11 to 20, she filmed 2 movies, Pretty Baby, Blue Lagoon. There might have been others. But the school piece really was there as a strong structure, and that feeling underneath of herself, a small influence, but notable, of wanting to reconnect to herself, of discovering herself, an independent, sovereign person. So then we come to luck cycle ages 21 to 30. And again, this is where she really was struggling. And this is a yang wood monkey. Now, remember, metal, which is monkey, is all about her career. This is also mentioning marriage, relationships, family. Her mother is mentioned. There is money, there's moving, but she's also having to reclaim her identity, and she's discovering herself through the roles she's playing. She tried Broadway and was discovering new aspects of her talent. So in that, it wasn't so much that there was change in her life, but she was putting on a new persona and discovering what that was about and finding herself in a new arena of people. So then, when we get to ages 31 to 40, a lot is going on here. And I want to go back 21 to 30. She had a semi-metal trio going on. There's a surge in her career that was needed to jumpstart things. But again, she's playing new roles here and she's finding herself again. Then from ages 31 to 40, she finds her stride, partly because this is a yin wood rooster. It matches her day pillar. In some ways, it's kind of like a direct hit to herself. Like she broke herself open and claimed herself for the first time in her life. This is who I am. I stand in my own self, confident, decisive, independent. And just like with her marriages and her romantic partners, this period of her life talks about great challenge in her career and change. A lot of change happening. This is where her TV show, I believe, happened. And also, just going back to this being her day pillar, her romantic relationships are her greatest challenge. I have this in my chart. And you could look at it and say, wow, that's pretty sad. But, we all come here to learn things. And what I can say is sometimes your closest, most intimate partner in life is the one that needs to challenge you the most on how you are in relationship. As long as it doesn't ever go to a place of being abusive. So in this time, this luck cycle, which was again ages 31 to 40, her dad dies in 2003. In 1997, I believe it was, that she married Andre Agassi. They were married for a couple of years. It was such a cute romance when it first came out. And then and then in 2001, a few years later, she connected with Chris Henchy, who she's still married to, and they have 2 beautiful daughters. So a lot of change is happening there. So then we get to the luck cycle ages 41 to 50. And this is Yang Fire Dog. This period is interesting in that there is a harm to her rooster self with the dog, weakening both metal and earth. And this kind of points to the fact that there are things happening, changes going on in her life that are impacting her career for sure. The Yang Fire speaks to a lot of change and a almost like a rebellion of sorts. Like she really wanted to go in a new direction in her life. This the dog speaks of making money, of prospering, of doing well. Her chart speaks of somebody destined to be wealthy. And changes in her career, it speaks to her daughters. So a lot happening in that period. But again, there's something happening, a real shift in her career, I would say. Then you get to this period she's in right now, and this current luck cycle began in 2017. This period, Yin Fire Pig, is all about her daughters, all about her beautiful daughters, and her mom. And since her mom has already died, it's about the mother role. What is her role as a mom, right? And it is also a time of, again, how many times do we reinvent ourselves in our lives? and finding herself in a different role in her work. And I'm curious to see what she does next. This is kind of a time of re-identification. Who am I now? I love the fact that she keeps herself natural, that she hasn't had plastic surgery or fillers or Botox or any of that stuff, that she is her beautiful self. It looks so much better when you don't inflate your body and try to look like something you're not. You know, I mean, I let my hair go gray. I have to say, you know, I feel like it's a lot more authentic than to try and pretend that I'm younger than I am. I am that I am. That's all there that you can do. You know, so when you're looking at the journey of her life and where the water was such a support in the very beginning, and the presence of fire and earth reinforcing, I mean, it's like she got the exact elements that she needed. And then when she got into adulthood, the wood and the metal speak directly to her and her career. And now, since 2007, she's been in a very fiery time, a very active time, and also that it's really, again, speaking to manifesting, making money, not so much this current luck cycle. So you look to where is she headed next? 2027 brings in a yang earth rat, which is yin water. And it's, again, what I just rarely see something so aligned. She is continually comes back in her chart to having the elements she most needs for balance. In 2027, she shifts into a period of prospering, focused on property, moving, a luxurious lifestyle, and something having to do with her spirit world, her spirituality, education, learning, inspiring people. I wonder what her platform's going to be. Yeah. And the period that's coming up in 2027, that rat is going to bang up against her horse. And that's going to offer a clash. And I have no doubt that that is going to be a changing point for her career. Yeah. So anyway, friends, so much to be said about Brooke Shields. A really just a dynamic, interesting chart. You know, when you look at the relationship with her and her mother, as a yin wood person, her mother shows up as a rebellious yang fire energy. Her mom shows up as someone who was taking care of her, that provided her money and resources, but someone who most of all was teaching her how to be the most unique self, because her mom was such a spitfire. And yeah. So yeah, her mom showed her how to be different, you know, how to be yourself, which is different. We're all different. Her dad shows up more as her romantic partners does, which is an authority, someone who challenges her, is critical of her, demands a lot of her. So, yeah. And I think that she's got a beautiful long life ahead of her. She's someone who is a bit of a dreamer, very good work, incredible work ethic, incredibly honest, and a beautiful romantic. Yeah. And she's a natural leader too. She doesn't really like to be told what to do, interestingly enough. So let's see where she's going next. I'd be curious to see. In the meantime, check out her documentary. I really enjoyed it. Thanks so much, and be well.